Terrible. This. Someone destroyed it. The incident occurred at Sam's important exhibition of original artwork. The panels had been smashed to pieces by someone. Sam, calm down. There's only an hour left before the doors open. Let's fix this. Fix this? Look at it. I don't know if it's Japanese or Chinese, and I don't know Arabic any better. I don't know which one is the description of which exhibit. A heavy, gloomy atmosphere filled the exhibition room. Sam clenched his fists in frustration. Tears welled up in his eyes. I'll fix it, I said as I gathered up the Arabic panels. My colleague frowned at me. What? You, a guy from the admin department, can read Arabic? Don't lie. I'm not lying. That's when my secret was revealed. And the reward for saving her from this crisis? Hey, can you love me as much as you love my manga, Japanese comics? She asked, cheeks flushed, leaning sweetly on me, an all too sweet future. The clock hit 5 p.m. At that moment, I, Tucker, shut down my computer. Good work today. I greeted cheerfully and left the office labeled Administration Department before anyone could say anything. Outsider clocked out right at 5 again today. I heard the voice behind me. I knew they were referring to me as outsider, but I pretended not to notice. When I reached the entrance, I ran into Thomas, who was striding back into the office with a satisfied expression. Thomas smirked theatrically when he saw me, clearly ready to leave. Hey, outsider, oops, I mean Tucker. You're clocking out on time again, huh? Must be nice working in admin. Meanwhile, I'm the editor for Lin, whose weekly Shonen Era Mode has the highest sales of any shonen manga magazine, and whose books, anime, and movies are all major hits. I could never. Well, good for you. Thanks to your hard work, Lin's amazing creations are being shared with the world. Keep it up. I patted Thomas on the shoulder encouragingly and quickly exited the TG Publishing headquarters. Like I need you to tell me that. Thomas's shouted complaint rang behind me, but I ignored it, of course. On the train, I pulled out my phone and opened my favorite novel and manga posting site. I noticed one notification. Oh, Zara M. Thus updated her manga. I was so happy I blurted it out. The woman sitting next to me turned her eyes toward me to look at something strange, so I made a small bail. Zara M. Thus was a manga artist I'd been supporting for a long time. Her style, which emphasized humanity's darker side, didn't get many views or high ratings, but I thought her work was wonderful. I started reading her updated manga right away. This one had a great development too. I couldn't wait for the next part. After hitting the like button and leaving a comment, I returned to the site's homepage. Looking at the rows of novels and manga titles, I couldn't help but smile. This site allowed members to post their original novels and manga for free. It didn't matter if you were a professional or an amateur. The reason I clocked out on time was to read these works. I love stories. Whether something was well made or not, I honestly couldn't tell. The works at the top of the rankings or those with only a handful of likes, to me, all of them are lovable. Because each one has the author's thoughts in it. Thoughts of wishing for peace, releasing pent-up frustration, wanting readers to smile, or sharing their love for a certain character. It's all unique. To say I love all of that would not be an exaggeration. Simply put, I'm a geek. Maybe you could call me a story geek. That's why Zara M. Thus is my favorite. Finishing work on time and reading as many stories as possible, whether by Zara M. Thus or other creators, is my simple joy. I'm satisfied with this lifestyle. I don't need anything more. The Era Mode 25th anniversary event took place in early July, when the scorching asphalt gave off the scent of summer's arrival. Since it was a company-wide event, even I, a member of the administration department, got to attend. Though labeled an event, it was more like a casual gathering. Manga artists who had previously published in era mode were invited to enjoy food and conversation. It meant I wouldn't clock out on time today, but I didn't mind. I enjoyed quietly observing everyone having fun while eating at the edge of the room. By the way, isn't Sam Z. Arthur here? We did invite him, but Sam doesn't really like events like this. Hearing the name Sam, I instinctively perked up. The ones talking were Christina, the era mode editor-in-chief, Thomas, and Lynn, Thomas's star manga artist. Suddenly, Thomas noticed me staring. "What's up, Tucker from admin? Do you want to join our conversation?" Yeah. Can I?" A wallflower, or more like wallpaper stain. Until then, I hurried over to the three of them. Thomas frowned, clearly irritated. "Judging by that reaction, are you a fan of Sam?" I answered enthusiastically to Lynn, who smiled at me despite my sudden appearance. "Yes. Sam? That'd be me, the devil, and the antique shop, or me devil for short. Next year marks its 10th anniversary since serialization began. I'm hoping there'll be some sort of event. But of course, Sam's brilliant works don't stop there. My personal favorite is Daydreaming. The protagonist's unwavering determination is so moving. Wow, that's a lot of passion. Daydreaming? Never heard of it. It's an early one-shot published in another magazine. If you want to read it, I'll lend you my copy, or better yet, gift you a new one." Lynn widened her eyes at my excitement, while Thomas scoffed, and Christina crossed her arms thoughtfully. "You're Tucker, right?" "I'm Christina, editor-in-chief of Era Mode." "Of course. You were Sam's editor for the first 3 years of Me Devil, right? You know your stuff. In that case, I'd like to ask you to be Sam's editor." "Huh?" Christina's words left both me and Thomas gaping. "Christina, this guy's from admin." "Yes, so it's only temporary. We're discussing a short-term serialization with Sam right now. And I thought it'd be perfect to have someone as passionate about Sam as you as his editor." "Me, as Sam's editor? Does that mean I'd get to see his work, his genius creations, before anyone else?" I swallowed hard. "But I'm not sure I can handle an editor's job." "Don't worry, I'll support you. I'll handle Mr. Fitzgerald and the admin department." "Please, won't you do it?" Christina bowed her head, and at that moment, the option to say no disappeared entirely. "Okay. I'll give it a try." "Thank you." Christina beamed and shook my hand firmly. "I'll talk to Mr. Fitzgerald about this right away. I'm sure he'll approve." With that, Christina walked off. I may have accepted, but me as Sam's editor? As doubt crept in, Thomas's annoyed voice cut through. "Hey. Enjoy it while you can. Sam's infamous for being a nightmare to work with. He's driven editors to quit with his impossible demands, isn't that right, Lynn?" Well, yeah, that's kind of legendary in this industry. "He's very particular, some might say difficult." "Sounds like Sam, all right." As I nodded in understanding, Thomas scowled in disbelief. "If this blows up, you might not even get to stay in admin, you know?" Thomas mimed, slitting his throat with a gleeful grin, and walked away laughing. A few days later, now officially Sam's temporary editor, I headed to Sam's place with Christina. She already declined in her email, you know. Is it even okay to visit then? If we don't go, we won't get anywhere." Hearing that she'd already refused, my nerves, already high since the morning, reached a new peak. I took an exaggerated deep breath and rolled my shoulders in preparation. Before I knew it, we arrived at Sam's apartment. It was a small, old 2-story building, and her unit was on the top floor in the middle. Christina rang the doorbell. No response. She rang again. And again. "Sam. It's Christina." Christina knocked on the door, raising her voice. Light footsteps approached. I told you not to come. The voice was high and melodic, like tinkling bells. I was shocked. I had assumed Sam was a man. The realization that there are female shonen manga artists made me ashamed of my fixed mindset. I brought your new editor, Tucker. He's also a huge fan of yours. Poof. Do you think you can bring someone like that and win me over? Not a chance. Sam's sharp tone reminded me of the characters in her manga, so much so that despite it being our first meeting, I found myself nodding, thinking, "Ah, yes, this is so Sam. At least let him see your face. Look, I even brought your favorite Ghirardelli caramel sauce." Ugh, caramel sauce. I was running low. No. I won't be bribed by something like that. So, Tucker, you said you're my fan, huh? If you're so eager to meet me, then surely you can stand there all night, right? Sam. That's too much. I'll do it. Tucker. Christina stared at me, dumbfounded. It's fine. I have water with me. Plus, I brought salt tablets because I was worried about heatstroke. Prepared, but that's not the point. Heatstroke isn't the only issue here. You don't have to cater to her whims like this. No, I'll do it. Please let me. You've got other work to do, so feel free to leave. Sensing my determination not to budge, Christina sighed deeply. I'll come back around 6 p.m. Is there anything you'd like to eat? I'll bring dinner. In that case, I'd like Buffalo Wild Wings extra spicy chicken wings. You know, the ones from Me Devil Chapter 462, Volume 52, page 120, Panel 2. Where the protagonist Lirio is forced to eat them by the demon heroine Neuro and breathes fire? They're seasonal, you know. Got it. With that, Christina returned to the office, but true to her word, she came back at 6 p.m. with the spicy wings, fries, and additional water and salt tablets. Thank you. How much do I owe you? Don't worry about it. Sorry, but I have to head home. You've got a family, Christina. Don't worry about me. Indulging Sam's whims is my whim. Thanks, and sorry again. I've filed your overtime request. I was struck by how her thoughtfulness toward her team was probably why she managed to lead such a quirky editorial staff, Thomas included, so effectively for so many years. Christina headed home, the sun sank into the sea, and stars began to twinkle above. The warm scent of a summer night filled the air. I occasionally felt Sam peeking at me through the door, but I pretended not to notice. Instead, I searched for the summer triangle in the sky. I learned about constellations from Sam's one-shot, The Night Train in February. For example, Cygnus, one of the stars in the summer triangle, is also called the Northern Cross because its shape resembles a cross when connected. Or that Antares is the brightest star in Scorpio. Incidentally, that one-shot was inspired by Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man, which I read afterward. As I searched for constellations, inhaled the summer night air, and occasionally listened to passing conversations, the eastern sky began to brighten. The first thing that came to mind was The Sun at Noon, a one-shot horror manga with a Yandere boy protagonist that gave me chills. Why are you actually still here? The delicate voice startled me. I turned around to see a woman of such breathtaking beauty she could bring a kingdom to ruin, standing at the doorway of Sam's apartment. As I stood there, momentarily entranced, she shot me a sly, mocking smile. Surprised? That your beloved shonen manga artist, Sam Zia Arthur, is actually a woman? No. I figured that out when you were talking to Christina. Oh. Well, whatever. Just come in. I can't very well send someone away who stood out there all night. Turning her back, Sam entered the apartment. I hesitated a moment before her curt hurry-up made me follow. Once inside, she sat me in a chair and placed a bag of raisin rolls and a cup of coffee in front of me. That's breakfast. You haven't eaten, right? Thank you. I didn't hesitate to open the bag and start eating. Meanwhile, Sam sat in a chair across from me, staring silently, which made me nervous. You stayed out there all night as promised, so I let you in. But I'm not drawing any manga. Is that so? My voice dropped in disappointment, and for just a moment, a flicker of confusion passed through Sam's eyes. It quickly returned to its cold indifference. A short-term serialization, right? I know your agenda. You want to oversee the end of my manga career. That's not true. This is your chance to bloom again. I don't care. Even if I bloom, there's no point if no one's there to see it. Sam's defeated attitude frustrated me so much I clenched my fists under the table. Then, why are you still drawing manga? I'm not drawing anything. You don't see my work in any magazines, do you? But you're posting it online, aren't you? Zara M. Thus. Her eyes widened. What? No one reads that. There's just one weirdo who's favorited my page and leaves comments every single time. Wait. Don't tell me. I'm that weirdo. Sam stared at me, stunned, then sighed deeply and slumped back into her chair. How did you figure it out? I changed my style, my tone, even switched to a complete opposite genre romance. At first, I didn't realize it was you either. But the more I read, I noticed it, the phrasing, the way you draw lines, the little quirks in the art and handwriting. And the pen name. Sam Z, Arthur and Zara M. Thus are anagrams, aren't they? Plus, I remembered something you said in an interview. You described your art as a medium for evoking deep emotion through visuals, while Zara M. Thus work sends a strong message to readers as the story concludes. At their core, both reflect the same goal, conveying something through art. What started as a hunch became a certainty the deeper I read. Can you read my mind or something? Sam stared at me, dumbfounded. I felt like this was my chance to push a little further. I discovered your work in 6th grade. It was your daydreaming one-shot published in Era Mode. At the time, my parents' marriage was falling apart. I'd given up, thinking it was their decision to make. But in that story, when Matt, the protagonist, was about to give up saving his kidnapped sister, Tamara, his friend Nolan said, if your happiness is still within your reach, don't give up. Even if they say it's like chasing a dream in broad daylight. That line struck me deeply. It's from the first panel on page 27 of Daydreaming. I thought, maybe my happiness is still within reach, so I fought to convince my parents to reconcile. And they did. Now, they're still happily married. Sam's clear, beautiful eyes were fixed squarely on me. If it weren't for that manga, I would have ended up living a completely different life. I'm here today because of you and your work. So if you still wish to share your stories with readers, I want to help you do that. Having said everything I wanted to say, I took a sip of coffee to calm my nerves. Sam looked at me with a difficult expression before breaking into soft laughter. Her smile was like a violet in bloom, and I found myself staring, spellbound. After a brief laugh, Sam let out a small gasp. Fine. I'll take on the short-term serialization. Really? Yeah. How could I say no to my one and only Zara M? Thus fan? She wore a faint smile that, for some reason, filled my chest with warmth. From that day on, I visited Sam's apartment every workday, brainstorming ideas with her. After much effort, we completed the name, storyboards, which Christina approved in the serialization meeting. As I exited the meeting room with a triumphant fist pump, Thomas mocked me with a sneer. A washed-up manga artist's work won't matter, especially with an amateur editor like you. Thinking this will see the light of day? Now that's a daydream. Thomas, remember this, if your happiness is still within your reach, don't give up. Even if they say it's like chasing a dream in broad daylight. That line only works because it's coming from Nolan, a high-spec, handsome guy, you know? Ignoring Thomas's frown, I headed straight to Sam. When I told her the storyboard had been approved, she mirrored my fist pump. And so, Sam's work began. But this was where the real struggle started. One day, I went to check on her progress, only to find Sam lying face down on her bed, pale as a ghost. "What's wrong?" I rushed over, panicked, as Sam looked up at me slowly. "Tucker, tell me the truth. This manga isn't any good, is it?" "What?" "I know it. When I first thought of it, I was like, this is my masterpiece. But now that I'm drawing it, the story is bland, the plot's uninspired. And the characters are cliché. This boring manga isn't worth finishing." It looked like she had hit a slump. Probably the pressure of having a new serialization after so long. I'd been trained for moments like this by Christina and the senior editors. "You're just tired, that's all. I brought your favorite Ghirardelli caramel sauce. Let's take a short break." When I held up the bag, Sam's face lit up immediately. But once she finished eating, the light in her eyes dimmed again. Even sugar doesn't help. "Hey, admit it. You don't actually think this is good, do you? You just gave it a pass because you felt obligated to make me draw it." She started poking my cheek repeatedly with her finger. And honestly, it hurt. "Sam, I'm sorry. To be honest, I don't really understand what's good or bad." "What? Then why are you even my fan? Isn't it because you thought my manga was good?" "Well, I'm the type of person who finds every story interesting. So I don't really know what the general public considers good." Sam's eyes widened in shock, and she buried her head in her hands. "That explains it. I finally get why you were the one weirdo reading my practically invisible online manga. You probably do the same with other creators, leaving comments for all of them, don't you?" "Yes." Sam was a master of reading people, so there was no point in lying. She glared at me, her eyes narrowing. "You traitor." "Traitor? That's not fair. Then tell me what's so good about this manga." She shoved the manuscript in my face. The scent of ink and paper filled my nose. "First, the lines. Your lines feel alive, like they're about to move off the page. Then, there's your dialogue. It's so well crafted that I remember the lines after reading them just once. The pacing of the panels, too mostly traditional but sometimes boldly unconventional. And too long." Sam dismissed my heartfelt praise in 3 sharp syllables. But she seemed motivated again. She placed the manuscript back on her desk and began drawing furiously. I let out a quiet sigh of relief. With Sam absorbed in her work, I found myself at a bit of a loss. Noticing dishes piling up in the kitchen, I decided to clean them up. After finishing the dishes, I returned to Sam's side. She was still focused on her work, her face serious and intense. I couldn't help but stare at her profile, completely captivated. "Hey, Tucker." Sam spoke suddenly, without taking her eyes off the manuscript. I hadn't expected her to speak, so my voice cracked as I replied, "Yes. I'll overlook your wandering love for other works. But in return, I want you to love my work the most." "Of course. Ever since I read Daydreaming, my heart has belonged to your stories." "Good. Then we're fine." Her softened expression captivated me once again. From that day on, there were occasional demands: "I can't work without Ghirardelli caramel sauce." Or "I won't draw until Tucker lists 10 things he loves about my work." But Sam's writing progressed smoothly. Finally, the short-term serialization began. The results were phenomenal. Sam's work was met with overwhelming praise from the very first chapter. Originally planned as a 5-episode run, the flood of requests for more led to the manga becoming a full-fledged series. To celebrate the continuation of Sam's offerings to our senior, cheers! A few days after the continuation was decided, TG Publishing rented out a bar for a celebratory party. The attendees included Sam, me, Christina's Aeromote editorial team, Sam's assistants, and Lynn, who, despite his busy schedule, had helped Sam out. Apparently, Lynn had once worked as Sam's assistant. Congratulations, Sam. I can't believe I get to serialize my work alongside yours, it feels like a dream. Lynn congratulated Sam enthusiastically. The editorial seniors also surrounded her, congratulating her warmly. From my spot at the edge of the table, I watched them idly. The distance between Sam and me felt somehow larger. Just then, Thomas dropped heavily into the seat next to me. His face flushed from drinking. Man, I can't believe the serialization actually got greenlit. But don't get cocky, Tucker, it's not like this happened because of you. Keep that in mind. I'll remember that. Satisfied with my modest response, Thomas drained his beer. But seriously, Sam's a woman? And a knockout at that. Maybe I should try to take over as her editor. Something in me twisted uncomfortably. On impulse, I grabbed the beer Thomas was about to drink and held back his arm. If you really want to become her editor for her sake, I'll step aside. But if you're just treating Sam like some trophy or accessory, then no way. Thomas stared at me, stunned, before his face darkened with anger. He yanked his arm free from my grip. Who the hell do you think you are, acting all high and mighty? You're just a temporary editor. Grumbling, he stormed off to join Lynn. Left alone, I sipped the beer I had saved from Thomas. It tasted unusually bitter. The party eventually wrapped up while I was still brooding. Tucker, you're walking me home. Sam ordered me as we left, and soon, we were walking side by side through the quiet night. The sharp scent of winter filled my lungs with each breath. Thank you, Tucker. My serialization continuing, it's all thanks to you. Her words brought Thomas's earlier comments back to mind, and a dull pain pricked my chest. I shook my head. No, it's not. Actually, Me Devil was cancelled. The confession made my eyes widen in shock. It was a huge hit, wasn't it? But I got cocky. I started making impossible demands of my editors. One by one, they quit, refusing to work with me. That only made me angrier, and the work suffered for it. The rankings in reader surveys dropped. In the end, they let me wrap it up with a conclusion I could be proud of, but only because it had been a hit. Her breath clouded the cold night air. After that, nothing I created worked. People said my stories were too dark, that my art was sloppy. I blamed it on editors who didn't care about me. I was wrong. You became my editor, and I finally realized how foolish I'd been. It wasn't the editors who failed me, I was the one without the skill or the drive. She lifted her face, her clear gaze locking onto mine. I forgot to breathe, mesmerized by the purity in her eyes. This time, I understand it's thanks to everyone. Shika, the other editors, Lynn, the assistants, and you, Tucker, who stood by me and believed in me. My manga was brought to life because of all of you. See? I've grown, haven't I? Her proud smile made my cheeks flush with heat. Before I knew it, Sam had taken both of my hands in hers. Her fingers were cold, likely from the winter air. Tucker, will you keep supporting me? Will you help me share my manga with the readers? Her red cheeks were probably from the cold. They had to be from the cold, otherwise, my heart might explode right here and now. Of course. I somehow managed to suppress the pounding in my chest as I answered, and Sam smiled shyly in response. Tucker, your hands were cold at first, but they're warming up now. Until we reached her apartment, Sam never let go of my hand. And I, too, clung to hers, not wanting to let go. A month had passed since the new year began. Today, Christina had said she had an announcement for everyone, so the entire department had gathered. Normally, at this hour, the editors would be visiting their respective manga artists or advising aspiring creators bringing in their manuscripts. Once everyone had settled, Christina spoke. This autumn, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Me, the Devil, and the Antique Shop, we will hold a special exhibition of original artwork. What? Yes. I couldn't help but shout louder than anyone else. I quickly clamped a hand over my mouth, but everyone already knew I was a huge fan of Sam's, so they just chuckled. Thanks for that enthusiastic response, Tucker. I'll appoint you as the leader of the exhibition project. What? Me? But? I glanced around, unsure, when Thomas shoved his way to the front, past the senior editors. Christina, I object to this. He's a temporary editor. How can you entrust such an important project to him? His role was only supposed to last for the short-term serialization. Shouldn't he go back to the admin department? That's not possible, Thomas. Sam specifically said she wouldn't approve of anyone other than Tucker as the project leader. If we pull him off now, her bad mood will hit its peak, and you know what that means. Christina frowned in a way that suggested she didn't even want to imagine it. The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Is Sam's bad mood really that bad? I wondered, confused. Sure, she had her whims. Don't run out of Ghirardelli caramel sauce, or list 30 things you liked about this chapter, or even if you leave now, I'll stop working. But I found those requests kind of endearing. Thomas scowled openly but seemed unable to counter. He muttered something under his breath and retreated. Well then, Tucker, I'll leave it to you. Christina said. I had no choice but to accept. But to be honest, I was thrilled. Afterward, I headed to Sam's place. I've been appointed as the leader of the exhibition project. It's thanks to you putting in a good word. Thank you. I bowed my head, but Sam cupped my cheeks with her hands and lifted my face. She looked completely satisfied, a soft smile on her face. I just got my way again, that's all. There's no one I could entrust this to other than the person who loves me and my work so dearly. Her words made my heart skip a beat. For a moment, I panicked, wondering if she'd realized my feelings. Then she smirked mischievously. What's this? You're turning bright red. Tucker, everyone knows how much you love my manga, don't they? Oh, that's what she meant. I exhaled in relief, but even after I left her apartment that day, the tension lingered. In early April, we officially announced the exhibition. On social media, fans were buzzing with excitement. I'll definitely go, and I can't wait. Which made me incredibly happy. It also fired me up to make sure this exhibition would meet everyone's expectations. At the same time, something unbelievable happened. A request came in to adapt Daydreaming, my favorite of Sam's works, into an animated film. Sam approved the proposal, and production began. We decided to display the original Daydreaming manuscripts at the exhibition, too. The thought of my favorite story, once overlooked, finally getting the recognition it deserved filled me with pride. There's nothing quite like seeing the things you love appreciated by others. Word of the exhibition spread overseas, too, and I noticed some fans planning trips to Japan from the US and elsewhere. Me Devil has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, French, and Arabic and published abroad. So we decided to prepare explanation panels in those 4 languages for overseas visitors. It was a lot of work, but for Sam and for her fans around the world, it was worth it. Before I knew it, autumn had arrived, and the morning of the exhibition's opening day had come. I dragged the perpetually sleepy Sam out of bed, and we managed to arrive an hour before the doors opened. I was surprised to see a line of people already forming outside. Today, the exhibition was set to begin with a talk event featuring Sam and the Aramote editorial team. Everyone from the editorial department was here. As we headed to the exhibition hall, I suddenly heard Christina's sharp voice. This is... She rarely showed any signs of being rattled, so Sam and I exchanged a concerned look. When we reached the hall, the scene made my eyes widen in shock. Some of the displays we had carefully set up yesterday lay scattered across the floor. The most damaged were the explanation panels for the artwork. Beside me, Sam seethed with anger. This is terrible. Someone did this on purpose. Sam, calm down. We have an hour before opening. Let's fix this. Fix this? Look at it. I've been learning Japanese out of respect for my fans, but I can't read all these Chinese characters. And Arabic? I can't even begin to figure that out. How are we supposed to match the panels to the displays? She picked up a piece of a Chinese language panel, furious. Honestly, I can sort of guess French, but Chinese characters and Arabic? Not a chance. This isn't going to open on time. The guests are already lining up. So, Tucker, you're the one taking responsibility here, right? Thomas's words cast a heavy silence over the room. Sam clenched her fists, tears of frustration brimming in her eyes. I began gathering the Arabic panels without hesitation. Yes, I'll take responsibility. But I need everyone's help. Christina, you understand French, right? Could you handle those? Sure. But I don't know Arabic. I'll take care of it. I can read it. Thomas scowled. What? You, the admin guy, can read Arabic? Don't lie. I'm not lying. I can also read Japanese, Chinese, and French. I own every version of Me Devil published overseas. The room fell into a stunned silence. Thomas stared at me, dumbfounded. All right, everyone. Let's split up and repair the displays, quickly. Christina called out. The team jumped into action. Sam picked up panels with Chinese characters, sorting them into Japanese and Chinese. Thomas, however, remained rooted in place, watching everyone with a smug expression of disdain. Thomas, help us out. You can read Arabic too, can't you? Poof. Why would I help you? He sneered, glaring at me. Once I confirmed everyone else was focused on their tasks, I leaned close to Thomas and murmured softly. You're the one who broke the panels, aren't you? He snorted. What are you talking about? Got any proof? I silently pointed toward a surveillance camera. Thomas's face paled instantly. He clearly hadn't noticed it. I sighed internally, amazed at his oversight. He gritted his teeth audibly, fists clenched. So what? Are you going to call the police on me? No. I'll stay quiet, but you're going to help us. Oh, I see. You think you're doing me a favor? You think this makes you better than me? No. I just thought, you're a fan of Sam's, aren't you? You wouldn't want her to know you did this, would you? His face fell, all the venom draining out of him. What makes you think I'm a fan? Because the only things destroyed were the panels, not the artwork. And when I quoted a line from Daydreaming, you remembered the characters' names naturally. Not even Lynn knew about that one-shot. Only a true fan would know. I smirked slightly. Thomas slumped his shoulders in defeat. Yeah, I'm a fan too. Of Sam's. Just like you, my favorite is Daydreaming. But when I told people that, they mocked me. What's so great about that manga, they'd say. Back then, Sam wasn't a big name, which made it worse. So I hid being her fan. Meanwhile, you flaunt your love for her work and succeed because of it. It pissed me off. I was jealous, Tucker. Seeing his trembling fists, I offered him a piece of the scattered Arabic panel. That's not on you. The ones who mocked you were wrong. Every story carries the creator's heart, their thoughts. It's unacceptable to belittle a story or the people who love it. Thomas's eyes welled with tears. If only you'd been there back then. maybe I wouldn't have turned out this bitter. He exhaled a long breath and then turned toward the other editors who were busy with the repairs. Everyone, I'm sorry. This was my doing. The room froze. Thomas. I tried to stop him, but he raised a hand to silence me. Thomas? You ruined my exhibition? Sam's anger flared up immediately. Thomas apologized profusely and deeply. As a way to make up for this, though it's not enough, I suggest you post about this incident on social media. It'll generate buzz. People love to wield justice safely from behind a screen. His words made both Sam and me freeze for a moment. That line, it was from Me Devil, Volume 42, Chapter 363, Page 2, Panel 4. Fine. Let's do that. Sam relented, her anger abating. The repair work was finished just in time for the exhibition to open as scheduled. The senior editor in charge of social media uploaded a video of the repairs, and it went viral almost immediately. How awful. Who could have done this? Unbelievable. People like this are the worst. Comments flooded in, and Thomas read every single one. True to his prediction, the buzz brought even more attention to the exhibition. Lines stretched endlessly every day, and the event concluded as a massive success. Winter arrived again, my second since becoming Sam's editor. Tucker, have you considered working here permanently? Chica's sudden question left me speechless. When I didn't answer, she continued. As you know, Thomas is leaving next month. He's resigning voluntarily to take responsibility for what happened. Fortunately, Sam didn't want to make a big deal of it, and Lynn offered to hire Thomas as his manager. So his future is secure. But Era Mode will lose an important team member, and I need you to step up and fill that gap. But I don't think I'm capable of filling Thomas's role. Do you know what they used to call me in the admin department? Outsider. I know, but that was an act, wasn't it? I froze. Christina always saw straight through me. I sighed in defeat. She smiled, soft and encouraging. Everyone here recognizes your abilities. With your language skills, you could even work at one of our overseas branches, if that's what you wanted. But I'm asking about you. What do you want to do from now on? Her words struck deep. I've always wanted to read and love every story in existence. That's why I worked quietly in admin, leaving on time every day, no matter what others said about me. But above all, the stories I love most are Sam's. I want to support her as closely as possible. I want to help her share her stories with as many people as I can. And now, that opportunity is within reach. If I reach out, my happiness is right there. Finally acknowledging the desire welling up from the depths of my heart, I stepped forward and answered Christina, my voice clear and determined. I want to keep being Sam's editor. Please let me stay in Era Mode. Understood. I look forward to working with you, Tucker. Christina smiled and extended her hand. I took it firmly, shaking it with all the resolve I had. So, I've officially transferred to the Era Mode editorial team. I'll continue as your editor from now on. Please take care of me, I said, sitting formally in Sam's living room. She muttered, sounding uninterested. To her, perhaps it didn't matter who her editor was. That indifference was part of Sam's charm, or so I told myself, though a twinge of sadness pricked at my heart. By the way, Tucker, I've been asked to draw a romance manga. It's a request from Dreamscape Digest at SB Publishing. You know, the romance-style manga I posted online? Apparently, it caught their attention. Wow, a romance manga by Sam? That's exciting. Any hint of melancholy I'd felt moments earlier vanished completely, replaced by an eager anticipation that made my chest swell. Seeing my enthusiasm, Sam shrugged, looking exasperated. So here's the idea I've come up with so far. A girl who loves drawing manga meets a boy who inspires her to aim for her dream of becoming a professional manga artist. Slowly, she begins to fall for this boy who truly loves her stories. Whoa, that sounds amazing. I'll buy it. Quick decision, huh? And don't you think this sounds familiar? I tilted my head in confusion as Sam let out a sigh. Suddenly, her brow furrowed sharply, and she gave me a shove. Before I knew it, we both toppled onto the nearby sofa, Sam pushing me down. Caught off guard, I didn't even have time to brace myself. Sam straddled me, leaning close enough that her face hovered inches from mine. The boy in the story? He is modeled after you. That's why I can't decide how it ends. I'm sure the boy loves the story of the girl. What about the girl? What does the boy think of her? Her breath tickled my face. And her scent surrounded me, making my heart pound uncontrollably. It wasn't hard for me to guess who the girl in her story was meant to be. I love you, Sam. I love you. Sam's eyes sparkled brilliantly. Oh, right. I never told you my real name, did I? It's... Before I could react, she leaned in closer, and our lips met. Every story carries the thoughts and emotions of its creator. Wishes for peace, the need to vent frustrations, the hope to make readers smile. The desire to share beloved characters with the world. Each story is unique and precious. That's why we should never belittle a story, nor mock the people who are moved by it. As Sam's editor, I'll keep working to ensure her stories reach as many people as possible, even if it feels like chasing a dream in broad daylight.